Hello and welcome, welcome one and all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Time to see out 2021. What a year it has been, and what better way to see it out than another community replay stream. The time is fast approaching when we will switch to Warhammer 3, so I figured it was an appropriate way to celebrate the year, bring in the new year, and in general just have a good time here with some Total War Warhammer 2. I am returned from all-day vacation, ready to go and jump into some awesome stuff for you guys. Let me just quickly make sure here that this is working. I figured it was okay. Yes, it is indeed working. Cool. Good to see you all, Coops, Ant-Man. Good luck driving the train. Yeah, hopefully not too many people puke, fight, or otherwise, have troubles in your train tonight. Or New Year's Eve. Yeah, without further ado, let's get to the game. And we've got quite a few replays to get through for today. So we're going to start in with Coops here in chat. Did send in a replay, a few replays actually. So we're going to start with that versus Yumaze, Warriors of Chaos, or Yumaze versus Coops Lizardmen. Should be a good time. Both these factions are pretty strong in the meta right now. Already off the bat, I like this build from Coops quite a bit. Nakai leading the way with an Ark of Sotek, and the caster will be a Skink Oracle, of course. A few Skink cohorts. Some Red Crests as well. We've got a couple of Stalkers, Chameleon Stalkers. Gotta get back in the flow of things. So, single unit of Cold One Riders and some regular Chameleon Skinks as well. Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, leading the way. Lots of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Pretty good choice. They'll trade well into Saurus, into most of the monsters. Just kind of a great sort of Swiss Army knife infantry unit here. Plenty of throwing axes as well. The missile block chance is pretty important against all of the various poison javelins and blowpipes and whatnot. Speaking of blowpipes, Stalker's going to come forward out on this flank. And let's do some nice shock damage. Take out about 4 models on those horsemen there. Huge damage. About 5 models on those horsemen. About half their HP in damage as well. So absolutely massive shock initially. Cold One Riders also get a hold of those hounds out on the far flank there. In the center, the Lizardmen, due to the superior speed of Skinks, we're able to seize the high ground here, and that does mean the Warriors of Chaos are going to try and fight uphill, which is not great for them. I mean, obviously, they're still much superior infantry to these Skinks, but their weapon strength will be significantly debuffed. Nice Burning Head, though, from Archaon. Does punch a couple of units there that were kind of blobbed up. Hits those Warriors of Chaos a little bit, but not too bad. Ark of Zotek is also going to drop the Sneck Summon. Unfortunately, doesn't hit any of these infantry units here, and it is soloed against Archaon, which is not ideal, but the other Warriors of Chaos here overextending a little bit. Nakai and the Skink Oracle punishing pretty hard there. Ark of Sotek moves away from Archaon. Archaon got Slayer of Kings active, but takes a ton of damage from Nakai here with Primal Roar active. Extra physical resistance and melee attack. Archaon using his swordsman to kind of screen there. Miasma of Despair trying to keep Archaon slowed down. Looks like a couple of shots might have landed from the Skink Oracle as well. But infantry definitely going in Warriors of Chaos' favor. They got the Mirror Guard way out there. Warriors of Chaos, Marauders just cleaning up a bunch of infantry. Chariots even. Lots of anti-infantry power. But the center pocket for the Lizardmen is definitely holding with the characters. Although, nice concave of throwing axes here from Yumaze. Going to be chucking at Nakai the Wanderer. Takes some damage. Needs to get back up the hill. Start to support these infantry. It does look like he's going to collapse there. Nice. Earthblood didn't quite catch Nakai, unfortunately, but does get the Ark of Sotek and the Oracle himself. And the reinforcements here, hopefully they'll be able to, get a terror out on some of those Marauders and the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Start to rally some of their forces together. It's looking pretty grim, but Cold One Riders have been briefly forgotten about, now moving into combat. Going to be able to apply that armor-piercing damage pretty well against various infantry units. They could also come out here and try and screen out these chariots, maybe get some of these routing Skinks back in the fight. We'll see. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that, Justin Fleming. Doing great, great Book of Grudges. I am doing fantastic. Had a really nice, relaxing holiday. Returning, feeling refreshed. A little bit risky for the Oracle to dive in here against Archaon without great support. I mean, the cohort of Sotek are here, but another Overcast Earthblood, going to get some good healing on Nakai there, on the Ark of Sotek as well. Nice chasing, some routing. Chaos Warriors with the Cold One Riders as well. Looks like they might be trying to screen Archaon and catch him so that these single entities for the Lizardmen can maybe get into combat with him, go like 2 or 3v1. That would be pretty strong. Another Snake Drop summon. That is going to do quite a bit of damage to these warriors with great weapons here, along with the handful of Cohort of Sotek also filtering in there. Pretty good stuff. Starting to shatter. Archaon's also taking significant damage, and he's going to have to hang back and sort of pick his engagements carefully. It's a little bit of a risk when you bring only Archaon as your single entity. You know, there's no terror here for the Warriors of Chaos either, which is a big factor. You know, these skinks are going to be fighting much longer than they would otherwise. Still, Chariots should be able to deal with them. We got Stalkers coming back in the fight, perhaps. Yeah, they've used up all their ammunition, but single entity still holding firm. Some nice range damage, too. Big hit from the Oracle there on Archaon. He definitely needs to try and avoid and just stay out of range of the Oracle as much as possible. Meanwhile, the healing, just sustaining Nakai and the Ark of Sotek. This is a really strong single entity presence, I have to say. Using these three in tandem, these are probably sort of the strong... Nakai is not necessarily the strongest, but the Perfect Vigor does synergize well here. Anytime he comes within range, you can see otherwise the Skink Oracle is going to be very tired, but once Nakai comes into range there, he is going to pop back up. You see the Ark of Sotek gets that Perfect Vigor as well, so it's pretty strong into the late game, especially for the Bastiladon to retain full armor, be able to resist as much of this damage as possible. I mean, obviously armor-piercing damage from the throwing axes. If we take a look here, they do primary AP. I still want to say it's, what, 21? Yeah, I want to say 22, 21. Still 6 non-AP damage, though. And I mean, obviously, all its infantry also going to be non-AP, so we'll see. Some warriors shattering there. They don't really have the models left have any form of leadership. The Cohort of Sotek somehow screening a full health unit of Marauder Horsemen, who really ought to just charge them and finish them off. But anyway, Marauder Horsemen also contesting here. Leadership's not great. This is pretty nice for the Cold One Riders to have gotten this flank, and a handful of Chameleons as well can come in and apply some more poison. Help these Chameleon Stalkers perhaps catch the Marauders and chase them off, but some nice collapse here as well. This presence of single entities is just a little bit too strong. Throwing axes have done quite a bit of damage, but the problem with the healing in this kind of a build is that the throwing axes can use all of their ammo and still not take out all of the targets that they really need to. Archaon by himself cannot get the job done. I mean, he is just teetering on the edge over here by the side of the map. What's up, Rubber Duck of War? Good to see you. Happy New Year to you also. I'm going to be doing King of the Hill to ring in the New Year as well tomorrow. I figured just do a little bit of a streaming this weekend. You know, had tons of pre-recorded videos for while I was gone. Didn't really get a lot of streaming timing with you guys, so I'm going to try and make that up. So be sure to keep your eye on the Discord channel as tomorrow rolls on. I'll probably be starting up about the same time tomorrow for King of the Hill, so for those of you guys who want to join, I'll put out an announcement maybe an hour or two beforehand to open up the signups. You can join, but anyway, getting back to the battle at hand, we're going to fast forward a little bit. These lizards, single entities, try and get back up on the hill. Stalkers get soloed out there, which is pretty rough, but still got one unit of regular Chameleons. Another unit of Chaos Warriors Griffins also gets soloed out here by the single entity blob. So, at this point, single entity blob does have a pretty good amount of mobility. I mean, all three of these units, right? Ark of Sotek is going to be the slowest at 40 speed. It's basically in kind of a fast infantry speed, right? But Nakai's 50, 75 for the Skink Oracle's obviously very fast. A nice primal roar here gives everyone physical resistance and some extra melee attack to try and punch through what's left here. But the Marauder Horsemen just about out of throwing axes, and there's no way Archaon can really come in and contest this fight. So them running out of ammunition should be gone, although we'll see. The Skink Oracle is the biggest threat to Archaon, and if he can get routed off, yeah, thereby a fireball actually gets shattered by some Marauder Horsemen. That is pretty big, but Nakai plus the Perfect Vigor, Bastiladon here, still has pretty good weapon strength, still has the ability to call that Snake Drops, although he just burned it, so it's going to be on a cooldown, but he will get one more, probably, if this fight continues to drag on, but we'll see. Terror is going to be a pretty big issue here. Primal Roar gets popped once again. I mean, not really have any other abilities. Don't really mind the Enrage. Not allowing them to stay in control as long as they just stay close, which is a little bit of a risk, right? Using that ability with the Enrage. Yeah, see, the Arc of Sotek briefly goes into a rage there, but then it actually drops quickly. Cold-Blooded was on Nakai himself, just to make sure that he didn't lose his leadership. He gets a critical hit on the side of Archaon there. Archaon was just about to rout that Bastillodon, but instead everything else terror routes for the Warriors of Chaos, and that includes some units shattering as well. That's not great. Nakai swinging his lollipop around, gonna pull up. We'll finally get some cinematics. This one's just been so close back and forth. Haven't really got too many cinematic shots. But a really nice replay from Coops, have to say. Thank you very much for sending this in. Archaon does come back ever so briefly. He's only got 500 HP left, though, so there's that one more. Snakes. Yes. Yes. What's up, Goji? Good to see you all, as always. The Arc of Sotek somehow used almost all of its ammunition on its Howdah, which is actually pretty impressive, and that has been applying the attacked by missile debuff. If we take a look here at the leadership of these horsemen, you can see attacked under missile fire, -5. It is only -5, but that extra -5 is pretty important, especially when you can stack that with that Miasma of Despair, all these other kind of variables affecting leadership at this point. It's just way too much. One more Spiteful Fireball from Archaon at the Arc. Archaon versus the Arc. Somehow very fitting. And Archaon coming in at the very, very end just to hit army losses. So Yume's almost pulled it out the win there, but Coop's just staying firm with that single entity. It's just such a strong combination with that perfect vigor. You know, one of the reasons why Sigvald's so strong and why he's so hard to kill, yes, his regeneration's pretty good, but the perfect vigor is so important. And here, with Nakai having that, with the Arc of Sotek just being able to hold out, of course, the Oracle also got that for a pretty good amount of time. The healing from him also sustained pretty substantially. I mean, that's literally the difference, especially on the Arc here, which of course provided that late game terror, but almost 2,000 value on it. Probably one of the strongest monsters in the game right now in terms of cost effectiveness. Millions had a little bit of a rough time. The Stalkers probably did slightly better still. None of them paid for themselves. Arc of Sotek, though, pretty awesome unit. They're going to almost always contribute well. A lot of the infantry for Lizardmen just kind of got run over here, and they had to rely on their single entities. For the Warriors of Chaos, pretty good value on the Marauders. The Warriors with great weapons, I mean, they're a great unit overall. Not really their best performance, but sometimes, you know, they're here just to get run over. The throwing axes probably all paid for themselves, but somehow still didn't quite do enough. That's kind of the healing single entity problem, right? Archaon, and basically you would have needed more damage out of these Warriors with great weapons, but because of the way the Arc of Sotek works, it's probably just going to kill them all in melee anyways. So I really like this build from Coops. Might fine-tune it a little bit, but definitely a solid base here. Arc of Sotek are totally balanced, I know, right? They are totally balanced, especially against infantry factions. They're going to be so... I mean, assuming they go in unchanged, they'll probably get nerfed slightly, but I think the mechanic will more or less stay how it is. They're going to be so strong against, like, Slanesh, any kind of squishy... I mean, Khorne, I guess, will have a little bit of magic resistance, right? It's hard to say there, but anyway, let's move on to the next replay. Thanks to Coop for sending that one in. Good way to start out. And I believe now we have a team game from Way. So the Empire and Beastmen. Unholy Alliance versus another Unholy Alliance, the High Elves and Dwarfs. So don't feature team games too much on this channel, but I figured I should throw this one in just for fun. Courtesy of Way. Boris is going to be leading the way, of course. He's... teamed up with the Beastmen, so he's got Lore Beasts as well. It's like a steam tank, 4 great swords, and 4 flagellants. The Beast Wizard is not on a Griffin, disappointingly. His teammate coming in with Taurox. He's got Brachium and Lord of Wild, some great weapon, Centaurs, Razorgors, whole bunch of Ungor Raiders as well. Empire Knights for the Empire, Steam Tank, of course, as mentioned. Reaver Archers immediately doing some nice skirmishing, getting some good damage in. We've got plenty of artillery from the Dwarfs as well. Stupid Techless with the Omen of Asuryan. And some White Lions as well, some Spearmen. We've got Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. The Skyhammer, very interesting choice. And some Iron Drakes, Organ Guns, Goblobber. More Organ Guns, Giant Slayers, Grombrindle leading the way, Master Engineer. Quite the Helm's Deep of Dwarfs and High Elves. There's going to be some trouble as Boris here on the Griffin gets into a pickle against Teclis and the Omen of Asuryan. Likewise, the Steam Tank just getting lit up by the Organ Guns and by the Skyhammer, so not great initially. Empire didn't really bring any armor-piercing missiles outside of the Steam Tank, so there's no response against the Skyhammer. This is obviously a pretty big problem. The Raiders are pushing back against the Reavers here, as the Beastmen kind of eat some of this artillery damage, which is probably just fine. Meanwhile, the Amber Wizards getting back over here, probably looking to get some cheeky Manticore summons, perhaps, or no Amber Spears, likely. We'll see. Is murdering my frame rate a little bit, but anyway. Nerf Burning Head. Burning Head is way too strong, I do agree. The Organ Gun doing some nice damage on these Flagellants here. Omen of Asuryan gets down, trying to go after the Steam Tank. A little bit risky, though. I mean, the Steam Tank's not going to be a complete pushover in combat. The Empire Knights can push back and screen. Boris eventually does kick the can against Teclis. Currently has sort of Teclis active. He's netted Boris just to apply the Kindle Flame and to keep him pinned in place, but we'll see. The Empire forces advancing and then kind of retreating, taking a lot of missile damage here on some high-value units, which is really not great. But Beastmen pushing forward. The Raiders are definitely a threat. Been able to deal with quite a bit of the Lyrian Reavers as well. Super cost-effective trade for them. And the Great Swords and Flagellants also getting a nice envelopment. So Wei and his partner here going to be very patient. A nice catch for the Omen of Asuryan. I don't think it's going to be able to escape, and the Steam Tank could even cycle charge with that 80 charge bonus. Can come in and do some pretty good damage on the charge, obviously. Omen of Asuryan, only 50 armor, though, so even like the Flagellants, the Empire Knights are doing some okay damage there. Meanwhile, Skyhammer doesn't have a lot of HP, so focusing the Ungor Raiders will be able to do a little bit of HP damage. Definitely need to try and take it out sooner rather than later. It could fly over and do a ton of damage here to the... I guess Taurox, yeah, does have some missile resistance, but anyway, gonna get a little bit of an infantry fight underway here. Ungor Spears versus Spearmen. Great swords on White Lions, too, especially with the White Lions missing their charge. It's gonna be huge, and a devastating, just a nasty Traderkin here. Let's watch to see if it detonates any artillery pieces. It did hit multiple units of artillery. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it actually detonated any of the pieces, but did some pretty good HP damage. This flanking attack, too, you can see how the center has been broken, so they're not even attacking in the center, just kind of enveloping and wrapping around the flanks here, forcing their opponents to respond to positioning, which in team games can sometimes be a little bit tougher. Often a lot going on, but Wei's also got a lot of forces kind of bunched up over here, dealing with the Phoenixes. Teclis is also coming in to deal with the Steam Tank, so at least tying down a substantial amount of resources. You can see the Great Swords came in and just easily wiped those White Lions here. We've also got all these Centaurs now and Razorgors, even some Minotaurs with great weapons threatening on this flank to try and come in and collapse here. Flagellants just getting absolutely roasted in fire. Oh man, the Iron Drakes and some nasty archer fire too from the High Elves. But here's Taurox and the Gorbel also in the center. Razorgor chariots able to get in as well, so the disruption has been enough that the Empire and Beastmen forces were able to get in, get a lot of their melee units going. Teclis going to throw down his Bound Fire Convocation. Absolutely one-shots this Ungor Spearman herd, but probably honestly should have used that on some of these Great Swords or some of the more high-value units. Regardless, Flagellants here moving in. Steam Tank somehow still alive, fighting the Omen of Asuryan with the help of some Great Swords, but Teclis is now realizing he needs to kind of help with this main fight. Here, maybe come try and side or rear charge these Great Swords, perhaps. Maybe go after Taurox if you can get a good engagement. This is pretty good, though. The Skyhammer gyro bombers in general, the closer you are to a single entity, especially somebody like Taurox, I guess it doesn't look like he actually has a shoot order. That's unfortunate. You'd want to keep the gyro bomber just like right next to Taurox and kind of follow him around and shoot him point blank. That way the scatter gun hits as many shots as possible, but Gorbel taking substantial damage, still screening out the Reaver Archers. They've used up most of their ammo anyway, and this blob fight did eventually generate into significantly favorable for the Empire. Oh, nice bombing run, though, for the Skyhammer. That is going to bomb out quite a bit of the infantry here. Probably do some friendly damage, as you can't really aim the Skyhammer's bombs. It's one disadvantage of it. But High Elves getting a huge netting a whole bunch of units. Somehow that steam tank's still alive, too, at 200 HP. Just absolutely trolling over here. And it looks like the Minotaurs were able to come in and at least force the Omen of Saurian away. Moved over into the center area. Dropped some hot flaming Phoenix Diarrhea in a cone. Fortunately, it's not enough, as the great swords, chariots, and whatnot were able to clean up that dwarven defensive position. And it's just Grombrindo holding out at this point in that pocket there. The Master Engineer trying desperately to survive Torok's goon attempt. But these Minotaurs and Grapens are still a very, very strong presence. We'll see. Gorbel takes a big hit here. And it looks like, Minotaurs, or sorry, Razorgore herds going out of control. But here come the Minotaurs and the Centaurs with Grey Weapons. They're going to try and surround Teclis and tear him down. Just watch as his HP drops. This balance of power should equalize pretty substantially. Steam Tank also still alive and still able to shoot at this point. Basically hasn't used up any of its ammunition left. It's just been literally tanking out damage. But a nice fiery convocation attempt. Wei is going to be able to partially dodge that with his great swords. Maybe took a little bit of damage still, but they do rout all of the remaining spears there. Still a lot of cavalry for the High Elves, and this Omen of Asaurian's pretty threatening. They're going to come in, probably rout these Razorgore herds. Torok's also in pretty significant danger, but likewise Teclis forced away by those Minotaurs. He's going to pop a regrowth on himself. Here comes the Omen of Asaurian. Once again, just hard teching after Torok, so to speak. Trying to get a little bit of hammer and anvil with Gromby, but Gromby's still just in Footlord jail over here, getting outmassed by literally everything. Point blank bomb drop, but the Minotaurs with Grapens are going to deal with everything that's fighting here in a pretty big hurry. They're so squishy against archers and other kind of low-tier spears and stuff like that, but this is a pretty ideal situation for them. No missile fire, just tearing apart high-value armored large units. The Skyhammer gets evaporated in seconds, and now they can turn their attention to the Omen of Asaurian. Let's see, though, plenty of High Elf cavalry still able to come in, provide some side and rear charges. There's one random Dwarf Warrior here that's also pretty healthy. And Teclis also coming in. Managed to regrowth himself pretty heavily. Balance power showing in favor of the High Elves because of the single entity situation. But we'll see. I mean, still plenty of Empire Knights left. They're going to get into those Reavers, start to clean them up. Get a nice charge here. The Dread column charge straight into these Dwarf Warriors. Grey Weapons will be able to respond somewhat, but the Empire Knights can obviously utilize their mobility to stay away as much as possible, come back to the support of these great swords. Again, the Phoenixes only have 60 armor, 50 armor rather, so the Empire Knights in a surround with a good charge can definitely get it done, and the Minotaurs with Grey Weapons also, like mentioned, super, super dangerous. Teclis gets caught up in here, and he does have the Reavers screening, so he could try and pull out of this engagement, but the Empire Knights are quickly going to close that gap, rear charge these Reavers here and take them out, and provide a, backbone with which Teclis cannot escape. That being said, it looks like the Minotaurs might have just let him out anyway, pulling back to try and cycle charge perhaps, but let's see. They really, just stay on Teclis at this point. Looks like he's going to rout, and that will equalize the balance of power. A little bit of rear charge here from the Reavers, just trying to rout the Great Swords on leadership. They will not be able to. That charge is going to do almost nothing to the Floppy Hat Boys. With Teclis going down here, I think he probably should just straight up die to the Minotaurs. Like 1 or 2 more hits and he's gone. Oh, do it. Do it, bull bro. Come on. Yes. No. Yes. Come on. Do it. Do it. Yes. Yes. Ha! Minotaur got him. Wonderful double hand chop there. That is obviously going to affect things. Somehow the High Elves still kind of fraudulently ahead on the balance power due to the Omen of Asaurian. And don't get me wrong, the Terror will be impactful, but Centaurs and Grey Weapons can come in and literally clean up all of the remaining High Elf infantry support. These Great Swords are probably going to win against the Dwarfs, despite Dwarfs, kind of holding a momentary leadership advantage. And then the Empire Knights, plus the Minotaurs, should be able to finish off the Omen of Saurian. Even got some Unbreakable Flagellants fighting in here as well. We'll watch as the beautiful Blue Pigeon free of Teclis' wrath, nonetheless must still face off against the Beasts and the Knights. Phoenix has got you sleeping at the wheel. Well, you're able to pull it back. Even without Boris, the steam tank survived for a hilariously long amount of time, considering how hard the Phoenixes were trying. Distraction steam tank, definitely a very real concept, and proved pretty successful here. Phoenixes, I mean, that's like 5,000 value plus Phoenixes that were tied up for at least a couple of minutes, if not more, trying to kill this steam tank, so... I don't have my webcam handy, Lux, unfortunately. I am going to be getting a cat cam set up here. I have a little cat bed sitting in the corner of my office for my fur baby, and I'm going to be setting up a cat cam so that in between matches y'all can... Because, let's be honest, you know, I'm not the ugliest dude. I'm not the best looking guy in the world. You know, my girlfriend tells me I'm good looking, but everyone wants to see the cat, let's be honest. A lot more than me, so I'm going to try and get a kitten cam set up. Anyway, wonderful replay from Way. Good job to him and Cat. Speaking of Cat, Cat coming in here. Huge value, massive damage on the Bray Shaman. I mean, speaking of stuff that's totally fair and balanced, Traderkin, definitely fair and balanced. Nothing wrong with that spell at all. The rest of the army here, Razorgore Chariots did pay for themselves. Razorgore Herds also came in and did a pretty good job. I mean, the Minotaurs are great weapons, though. In the late game, to kill the Phoenixes were super, super important. This is one of those units that had the Reavers focused fire on them. They could have killed them easily, but they didn't. So as a result, they get 4,000 damage value on 8,000 damage dealt. Pretty impressive stuff. Centaurs and Grapens also helping to clean up plenty of routing units, whatnot. Ungor Raiders, probably one of the best low-tier archers in the game. Way, for you, I mean, both your characters did nothing, but Flagellants definitely paid for themselves in many cases. Great Swords also fantastic. 154 kills, 10,000 damage value, 1,456 damage value. Really good stuff. The Steam Tank tanked out a lot of damage, even if it didn't pay for itself. And Empire Knights getting 2,000 damage value is also absolutely ridiculous. One of the best performances I think I've ever seen of Empire Knights. Granted, a lot of that's probably doing, again, damage to Phoenixes, helping to thin out Delirium Reavers and whatnot. For the High Elves, Teclis obviously gets some good value, as does the Omen, but they don't quite carry hard enough. The rest of the army basically didn't do much. I mean, Reavers probably paid for themselves. Yeah, actually, I take that back. Some of the Reavers, extremely cost-effective. Used up all their ammunition, chased a bunch of routing units. Really good there, but on the Dwarven side, I mean, the artillery, wow, I'm surprised it pays for itself. 2 organ guns. I mean, I guess they have the steam tank to shoot at and some other higher value infantry. Grudge Thrower doesn't really surprise me that it didn't pay for itself. The Skyhammer did as well. Then the infantry was just, I mean, Dwarf Warriors, I don't know, they did alright, I guess, all things considered. Probably would have been better to just have the shielded Dwarf Warriors anyway, though, so they last a little bit longer. Ride your missile units with a little bit more support shooting uptime. Giant Slayers, just not enough of them, even though they do pay for themselves, so... Thanks, Lux, appreciate it. That makes me feel nice. Anyway, let's move on. We've got more replays to get through, but awesome one there. Let's see. Seen a lot of Warriors of Chaos today. So let's go with this one. Cool Umbrellas. Tomb Kings. We didn't watch this one last time, did we? Let me actually check something real quick. I don't believe so, but... here. Okay, while this is loading. I don't think so. I think last time we had some different Tomb Kings games. Let me just quickly double check something. I apologize. I should have marked off these replays that I used beforehand, but whoa, what are you doing there? No, okay, it was a Tomb Kings versus Empire game. I was going to say, I don't think we had Tomb Kings versus Beastmen. Interesting matchup. The Beastmen can have some leadership issues in this matchup, but it doesn't look like there's actually any terror from Cool Umbrella here, so that's interesting. He does have Kotep here to absolutely troll with ability recharge. Necropolis Knights are going to be pretty good here, though. Heavy Cavalry historically has been pretty good against Beastmen, and the Necropolis Knights do fill that niche. For Tomb Kings, we've got some Tomb Guard. Of course, no Burning Head here, so you can't actually use them. A couple of halberds, a couple of regular Tomb Guard. Legion of Fakth. Bishop de Great Bows here. Beastmen side, we've got a foot character squad. It looks like Dread Wargore coming in here. Bratium and Lord Shadows and Morgur the Shadow Gave. Some Bestigors, a couple of Bestigors, 3 Ungor Raiders, some Ungor Spearmen. Gorherds with shields as well. Razor Gorherds out to the flanks. Pretty interesting. We're going to get Incantation of Righteous Smiting. You don't see that every day. Shop to Great Bows are now going to try and snipe the caster with that active. They do get a pretty substantial missile buff. They're going to pull back a little bit, though, after using the one volley there. A little bit of physical resistance on them also. They don't get the full uptime of that extra missile damage, but I guess it helped a little bit there. Let's see. Are they going to be able to get some shots on this caster here? It does appear so. Definitely hitting some of those raiders as well. I don't know if they got any more shots on the Bray Shaman himself, but there was an attempt. Unfortunately, that missile damage spell just doesn't have a long enough uptime, in my opinion. It seriously, like, double the uptime. That wouldn't be a problem. But the one thing that does do is put Morgur's spawn summons on a little bit of a cooldown timer, so he can't just immediately pull them up and, like, path them back after these are Shabtis, which would be a pretty good idea. But nice onion strategy here. Lots of layers to this Tomb King formation for the Beastmen to try and get through, and they, for whatever reason, didn't bring any chariots. Try and just, you know, shock through these lines, or maybe mass through. But Bestigors are going to find a way through eventually. Some nice Skullstorm, though, in the meantime. A little bit of extra incantation protection for those skeleton warriors as they get rear charged by Bestigor Herd, desperately trying to keep them alive as the missile presence kind of continues to fight. I'm surprised Legion of Fakth have actually used up as much of their ammunition as they have. Not really sure what they've been shooting at, but the Armor Sundering probably needs to be used against some other more high-value targets here. We'll see. Here comes the Spawn Summon, though, trying to go after these Shabtis. Again, they get Incantation of Righteous Smiting. And then Acropolis Knights are now going to be deployed. They haven't really been necessary up until now. Beastmen just kind of washing up against this onion of Skelly boys here. Hey, thanks, Voidlows. I'll have to check it out. Appreciate that. Voidlows, of course, the champ of this year's South Sea Mercenary League. But let's see. Nice enfeebling foe. We're also going to get a Penumbral Pendulum. Better late than never, going after the Tomb Guard. Since you don't have Burning Head, that's the next best thing. More Tomb Guard are going to be reinforcing into this fight, though, getting some more Incantation of Protection. So Tomb King's definitely trying their best to hold the line here, allow their missile units a little bit more time to shoot, but this flank is being threatened by some Razorgore herds here. Of course, the Doggos as well. Chaos Boys and Warhounds. And the Razorgores together would be a deal for the Shabti to deal with. A problem, rather. But Necropolis Knights are also here to kind of protect. We'll see. Definitely a bit of a grind fight at this point, which it's hard to say how it's going. I think it's favoring the Beastmen a little bit here, considering they've got their 2 Bestigors into combat, but perhaps not. I mean, Acropolis Knights are both still pretty healthy. They're now chasing away those Razorgore herds. They're not even the Halberd version either. They're the higher charge bonus, so one more Incantation of Righteous Smiting. Let's see if they can make contact on the Wargore during that time. Probably expected more, you know, higher power single entities, maybe like a Gorgon or something, but they are not going to see that. Instead, having to use their shots on more single entity type targets. Necropolis Knights do manage to just wipe both units of Razorgores pretty easily. That is going to give some additional security to these Shabti Greatbows. Now, basically, nothing can catch them. They can continue to just cackle and reposition and shoot and move until the end of days. They do actually rout the Brave Shaman Lord of Shadows, though. Everything all together. Got the Hounds also moving in, trying to threaten, at least interrupt the Shabti from firing. But nice positioning on these Tomb Guard here, just to get them back and into place to protect. Also, maybe move in on Morgur. I mean, he only has 15 armor, so the 42 weapon strength of Tomb Guard will be pretty decent if they're able to get a surround against him. Likewise, this Beastman front line looks pretty low. This is where, like, a Tomb Scorpion would have been really nice to have the terror piece to then move in and just terrify away a lot of these tattered Beastmen units. Probably wouldn't still be hanging around, but Another Penumbral Pendulum coming in here, going to sweep some of these Tomb Guard with Halberds, Enfeebling Foe also on them. Looks like all these frontline units are pretty much done for. The Necropolis Knights, will they be able to carry? I mean, this unit's basically full health still, and they should be able to mop up most of the rest of the Beastmen army. I mean, we'll see. Destroyers of Drakwald putting up a valiant effort here against these Necropolis Knights. But there should be one more Skullstorm, I think, as well. Another Incantation of Protection, Incantation of Cursed Blades. So, Kotep definitely spamming out a lot of spells here, keeping those abilities on cooldown. Not that there's anything... I mean, I guess the Spellcaster is still here, right? So, trying to prevent those as much as possible. Necropolis Knights also moving in now. Screening those Ushabtis, who still have quite a bit of ammunition. At this point, I might even just use the Ushabti shots on the Bestigor to try and take out that, most threatening infantry. Bestigor, the only thing that can really do much damage to these Necropolis Knights, and they do manage to get a countercharge in here. And do some pretty substantial damage. You can see some big old chunks getting taken out there. But rather than using these Shabti Greatbow shots to go after him, of course, Kotep can also throw his bound vortex of sand straight at them. They're now going to attempt to pull back. I'm not really sure what the idea is there. Probably just want to stay and fight a little bit, but as they pull back, they're likely to get routed. And with that Bestigor gone, we'll see. Still have some hounds threatening here, and there's still a lot of numbers of beastmen, it should be said. The Tomb Kings are basically out of support units at this point as well. Just their high-value stuff is left. The Necropolis Knights, Ushabti also struggling to get away. You can see even the Poison Warhounds there. Non-AP, everything that you might think would be going against them here. Do manage to poison, and just the speed and the number of models is hard for the Ushabti to deal with. So Necropolis Knights rushing over, trying to screen. You can see the hounds pull away there. Core-herds not quite fast enough, even with the poison. They themselves, of course, getting poisoned by the Necropolis Knights, so they're definitely not going to be able to catch up. And Ushabti might have an opportunity to loose one volley here quickly into these Bestigor herd blob if they can. Looks like instead they're going to try and still shoot these characters, which, kind of makes sense. Other than the Ushabti, he doesn't really have much that can threaten the characters in combat. I mean, the Necropolis Knights in a surround, I guess, could probably get it done. But still, why risk it when you can use a couple of these shots to get some extra insurance that they will, in fact, lose? Necropolis Knights are having a hard time staying cycle charging, though, and they definitely want to do that. So let's fast forward a little bit here as the Ushabti kite. Get some nice cycle charges from the Necropolis Knights here, move in, break a number of units. Bestigor, again, being the most important of these, but even like the Poison Warhounds, getting rid of their mobility is important. They're going to get double sandwiched here. Oh, bad doggo. Bad day for the doggo as they get mass swept by Snecks. Bray Shaman also, as they get kind of separated here. Like I said, it was surround from the 60 weapon strength. Necropolis Knights should be plenty to deal with them. Ushabti Greatbows also were able to come in and get some shots on those Bestigor herd as they continued to kite away. Be enough to rout them off. So Tomb King's in a pretty commanding position at this point. Morgur is pretty tough to grind through, but shouldn't be a problem with all these Necropolis Knights. And, I mean, Kotep can even perhaps cycle charge him a little bit here. Necropolis Knights just charging out whatever other targets are left. Getting rid of them. The Ushabti Greatbows gets in a shootout with the Ungor Raiders over here. And that's going to go in the Ushabti Greatbows' favor, even though there's a significant volume of Raiders here. Their leadership's low enough that just one contact, and I think it does actually count as getting hit by our artillery. Let's see. Yeah, damaged by artillery, -10. So we saw there the small arms fire before as a separate -5 modifier. That significant leadership impact there was much for the Ungors to deal with. Even though if they were able to just sit and shoot, they might actually win that shootout. Anyway. Necropolis Knights maybe thinking about going after the Raiders, but the Ushabti Greatbow shots able to just about do it. The shots at Morgur are not going to do a lot because of his missile resistance. It would be better to shoot at literally anything else, or even just to move the Ushabti probably into melee combat, but the rest of this will take some time as Kotep and his Necropolis Knights just cycle charge the heck out of Morgur. Eventually it will it will be the end of him. A little bit of Curse Blades just for some extra damage. Really just to get rid of the Bestigor as well. And Morgar. There you go. Hey, what's up, dog? Phoenix King also. Good to see you guys. Yeah, Bestigors are pretty good. They are definitely a strong infantry unit, and they were able to each clean up 100 kills here. Yeah, didn't quite pay for themselves even still, which kind of surprises me. But the Necropolis Knights, I said they were going to be important, and boy were they. 132 kills, 1,800 damage value, 15,000 damage dealt. Over here, 14,000 damage dealt, 2,300 damage value. Kotep himself, 1,200 damage value on 12,000 damage dealt. Quite a bit of chaff clearing there from old Kotep. Infantry, basically none of it paid for itself. It's to be expected here. Beastmen infantry on the flip side probably did okay. Besides the Bestigor, I mean, even with Bestigor, like 2 units paid for themselves. So not great, but let's see. Yeah, just kind of spread value all around. A lot of damage probably to crumbling, I guess, for the Tomb Kings, because it doesn't look like a lot of these units paid for themselves, and yet the Beastman still almost won. So I don't know. I mean, I would say for a cool umbrella, he does have his most high value units all pretty healthy still, so I guess they didn't get a lot of damage on them. I don't know. Anyway, a little bit weird on the damage valuations there, but it is what it is. Hey, what's up, Zach? Yeah, Bony Boys won. I know, right? Those Necropolis Knights are nasty. They're such a strong unit. Cool. So, grab a couple more replays here. Let me look. Got one from the legendary Sladex. He's up against someone who looked like they auto-generated a Vampire Coast army. It's an army. There's no caster, but depending on the mount, it might not actually be legal either. We'll see. Slade also, I mean, 10 artillery units against Coast. Yeah, so we've got the full-on Helm's Deep of Doomdiver catapults and rock lobbers, some stone trolls, spider riders, Grom Paunch leading the way. We've got a Night Goblin Shaman as well. You would think that that would be nasty, but in fact, we've got Luther Harkon on foot, Queen Bess to respond, some Prometheans, Rotting Prometheans, Regiments of Renown, Gallows Giant, plus a regular Necrofex, and a Rotting Leviathan. So huge monstrous presence, and the artillery already raining down. One Rock Lobber has been routed off, and the Doomdivers are going to turn their attention to the monsters here. We could try and counterfire Queen Bess, but right now Queen Bess is just ever so slightly out of range. A little Vindictive Glare from the Night Goblin Shaman as well. Let's see, the homing from the Doomdivers, pretty accurate. They're able to get quite a few hits on the Necrofex there, and oh man, Grom, what are you doing, Grom? Grom charges straight in to the crabs here, manages to get out of there before he gets fully surrounded. Took a huge amount of damage regardless, but he is at least delaying these units, allowing the Doomdivers and the Rock Lobbers to continue to get some damage. Huh. Not something you see every day. Yeah. Yeah, this is a beautiful one. Slade is probably one of my favorite players to watch, to be honest, and this is a big reason why. Artillery's getting shut down, though. We've got one Doomdiver down, another one got hit by Queen Bess, managed just to hold on to its leadership. Stone Troll's also coming forward now, but man, Grom is just getting absolutely worked over here by the shotguns, although Lamprey's Revenge do so much more damage than what I remember. Spider Riders were able to get back here, though, and it looks like they might be shutting down Queen Bess. Yep, they were able to get in on the crew and shut that down. The Prometheans and other gunneries not able to protect old Bessie. I don't know. Maybe they can rout them off still and salvage Queen Bess, but we'll see. Meanwhile, on the front line, one Necrofex almost down. The giant enemy crab is almost down. And the other Necrofex, the flaming Necrofex, is also quite weak. Grom's been able to come in, get some regeneration. Yeah, this poor Gallows Giant, just like, I didn't ask for this. We've got the Hammer of Gork over here, which is going to apply like a blinded debuff. Will debuff accuracy and melee stats, but both of the Necrofex is just about to go down here. Meanwhile, Queen Bess did actually get salvaged. The Rotting Prometheans and the pirates, zombie pirates, and Luther are able to move in, rout those Spider Riders. Rom wheeling around as well, trying to stay away from the crabs, but the crab goose chase, or paunch chase if you will, did carry them far away from the artillery. So now the artillery can turn and focus fire on them, with both of the Necrofexes being down, or the Necrofeces if you will, for plural. Ah, yes. Grom comes in, interrupts Prometheans here. They're going to open up with their shotties, even in melee, do some pretty good damage, and Grom will get routed pretty quickly. But the giant crab is down at this point, and with the big 3 high-value single entities down, it's no question the Vampire Coast facing a pretty tough dilemma. Even with Queen Bess still active, there's no Gunnery White to refill ammo. Otherwise, this might not be completely hopeless, but artillery... Doom Divers are accurate enough to actually hit Harkon on foot pretty consistently. The fighters are also not able to get back onto Queen Bess after rallying. Some nice screening with the crabs here to protect. Queen Bess, here we go. It is a thing of beauty indeed. Oh, yes. Promethean's just taking heat right now from everything. Archon desperately chasing a Night Goblin Shaman. You know your life's in unlife I should say, is in a rough place when you're just desperately chasing a Night Goblin Shaman. Getting rained on by goblins from the sky and rocks and all sorts of various other things. To be honest, Harkon's probably having a grand old time. He's completely in his element here. Is he going to fight them in melee? Oh man, he does manage to get one of the Doom Divers to almost blow up a friendly artillery piece, but look at all the targeting reticles there. The targeting paths. Has little VTOL Gabo, little turn and fight. Oh, he's bouncing off the ground. Oh, he's like getting back into the artillery. Oof. And here come the Stone Trolls. Queen Bess also still firing. It looks like that's going to be army losses, though. And Slade takes another legendary victory. Yes, the Necropieces didn't do much. To be honest, the mass artillery is good against Vampire Coast, I would say, from a surprise perspective. I mean, very few Vampire Coast players are going to expect something like this, so actually ended up proving very, very effective. Not really too much else to say, so let's go on. We've got another team game. This is VM versus ODM, I guess. Or I guess, is it Even Star in VM? It's Even Star and Void Lulz versus Loopy and another player. I think, was it Kalharmon? Awesome 2v2, lots of great players. Skaven and Counts versus Skaven and Vampire Counts versus Wood Elves and High Elves. So normally the Counts would say the Elves are tough matchups, right? Pretty much all 3 of the Elves are tough matchups for the Vampire Counts in most people's opinion. But here with the Skaven and 2v2 able to equalize things a little bit, the Poison Wind effect is going to be great against the low HP of Elves, especially in a big team game situation like this where you can hit tons of units at the same time. I've got some Skaven Slaves here, plenty of zombies up front, some Morplock Giselles, Rat Ogres, Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers, Globes, and Mortars, both. Assassin. Plagues here of Ruin, very interesting. A couple of Vargulfs here. We've got Isabella von Karstein. Isabella's fantastic in team games because the Blood Chalice Bethori can heal any units substantially, and doesn't have a max number of uses, right? Yeah. So, like, you could get this Plague Furnace to its healing cap, you could even heal the Skaven Assassins, any characters are going to be good for healing here. We've also got some Wolf Rats, Ashen Triads out on this flank here. Grave Guards to the center, I would imagine. Yep. Vargulf. Some Blood Knights as well. You gotta have Blood Knights, Dire Pack. For the Elves, Spell Weaver of High Magic. Kind of baiting out some shots initially. A couple of Waystalkers moving in. Lots of Reavers, Rangers, Eternal Guards, some Blade Singers in the center. Wildwood Rangers as well. Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts. 2 Bolt Throwers. Valerian Reavers and Silver Helms. So plenty of Elven, High Elven Cavalry here. Wardens of Kithral, Regiment Renown. Wildwood Rangers also present. And an Archmage of Death. So we've got a High Spellweaver and an Archmage of Death. Interesting choices. Nice, what is that? Soul Quench. It's a few of these models. 5 models off the Jezzails is not too bad. Spirit Leech here comes in, deals with a few more. We've got 5 models also off this unit of Jezzails, so Elves very patiently just kind of picking at whatever units they can get access to. The Bolt Throwers are technically fulfilling the attacking rule by shooting at some zombies. Oh yes, lots of models though. Kind of tanked my frame rate slightly, not too bad. Oh yeah, there we go. Scattershot onto the zombies. That will definitely be super effective. Oh no! Howling Warp Gale is going to trap the Archmage of Death, and you can see the Poison Winds shooting in. They're not going to do that much. The Jezzails will definitely do more. I don't know if they'll be able to full snipe, but that is a pretty long uptime. Yeah, still substantial uptime of that Howling Warp Gale left, and now it drops pretty good amount of damage on the Death Mage there. Spellweaver might be able to get a little bit of healing on her, but we'll see. Meanwhile, Dire Pack moving in. Don't really want to fight the Rangers. Rangers with their anti-infantry bonus will apply that to any kind of Hound-type units which count as infantry, which Dire Pack do. They've got to be careful of that. Yes. Nice wide 2v2. Jezzail's still focusing, trying to take out the Death Archmage. Oh, yeah. And Jezzails themselves are taking some pretty substantial damage, but is it going to be enough to prevent the Lord sniping here? That is the question. Assassin also moving in, trying to get in range to perhaps fight those Waystalkers in melee. Going to see another Soul Quench, though, shooting into the side of these Jezzails. That could be potentially pretty nasty. Oh, man, takes out the entire back row, putting that unit down to only 9 unit models. Still, is it worth sacrificing the Archmage of Death? I don't really think so. We'll see. The mortars are still trying to get into range for the majority of the Elven army here, but the Globadiers have started getting into range, so we can see some damage there initially. Blood Knights also. They were initially going to charge in, but now pulling back after the Poison Wind globes land there. You can see great job here by Evenstar to spread the damage of the globes around. He does accidentally hit those Black Knights, though. Not the end of the world. They're not the Blood Knights, so that's actually just fine. You can see these Blood Knights way out wide here going for a full envelopment. The Elves having to defend on all fronts at this point. Blade Singers, or Rangers, sorry, got pretty far forward somehow, and they're going to get enveloped in way too many numbers. Just inundated and overwhelmed. Assassin, same thing, though. Oh, nasty Soul Quench right to the face. That Assassin is super, super dead. Pretty unfortunate. If he's able to escape, maybe Isabella can heal him up, but it does look like the Waystalkers are just going to finish him. Yep, he shatters there, so that's pretty good stuff. Blade Singers go on to high base weapon damage stance. Ashen Triads almost able to get into this backline without getting seen, but they do get seen and absolutely destroyed. Same thing over here. The Triads with the Hounds is sometimes a good combination against the Silver Helms, but it's just a little bit overwhelming. Blood Knight's a little bit slow to respond in order to save the Hounds. They do get a good rear charge in on those Reavers, though. Probably going to be able to rout them. Meanwhile, big old center fight. Got the Vargulfs moving in. We've got all the Grave Guards moving in. Isabella's moving in. These Black Knights could maybe get a good charge, but the Wardens of Kithral also standing firm to help defend. Some zombie summons just going to try and keep things going. The attrition damage from the Poison Wind globes is going to be pretty important here. So the mortars and the globes all raining in damage. You can see all in this center area. They're just doing a great job of spreading it around. Ooh, nasty dreaded 13th too on this blob. Just detonates 2 super high value Wood Elf infantry, and its Wardens of Kithral and the Blade Singers just absolutely get destroyed there by the Grey Seer. Great push and great use of abilities. Elves, low HP is coming back to haunt them at this point as they just get more and more numbers thrown at them. The Skaven pushing through the center. Blade Singers will be able to cut up all this chaff in a pretty big hurry, but will it be a big enough hurry that they can start to kind of stem this tide? It is definitely a tide pushing through. Rat Ogre's getting pretty low, though. Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers also maybe overextended. 2 Vargulfs have a pretty strong pocket, though. They've got Storm Vermin with Halberds, the Summoned Vermin protecting here. Grace here also in a supporting position. Isabella also completely healthy, although she is starting to drop from the Starfire shafts, so got to be careful of that. Blood Knights pushing through. Blood Knights back here. Completely healthy, just wrapping up some Rangers. Kind of hard to tell what's going on sometimes in these big team games, but the Waystalkers picking at Isabella. They're going to try and take her out as best they can. We've also got this Bolt Thrower shooting at what? I'm not exactly sure, but hey, what's up, Taminten? Good to see you. Oh, Taminten, I was supposed to send you some Empire builds. I apologize. I completely spaced that. I had looked through some and had saved some, but I forgot to actually send you the screenshots. So remind me, and I can try and get you those tomorrow. I'm probably going to be busy after the stream today, but thanks for stopping by. Oh man, look at these Vargulfs. The Starfire shafts, of course, doing a little bit of extra damage, but just all of the Overwatch fire here. A lot to deal with. The one gets pretty well gooned out, but at the same time, the Archmage comes down here, Howling Warp Gale on her. She's not going to be able to escape that. High Spellweaver can't swoop in to defend either, so some nice Howling Warp Gale there. Looks like the Elven Cavalry push back. They're going to try and shut down these weapons teams. Some regrouped Blade Singers as well moving in. Rat Ogre's going to try and protect that. Got some more Rangers over here chasing around some Graveguard. I have no idea what's happening there, but anyway. Isabella moving in, helping to deal with the Waystalker. Waystalker's used up all of their ammunition at this point. Likewise, the Starfire's using up a good portion of theirs, but not able to finish off either of the Lords of the Forces of Darkness here. Unholy Horde, if you will. Anyway. Yeah, I got some Blade Singers continuing to move in on the Jezzails, so the weapons team's definitely being threatened. The Elven Cavalry have kind of cleaned up this pocket. Some Eternal Guards also moving in to try and support. The Grace here in a little bit of danger. The High Spellweaver could perhaps drop down and get with some of these cavalry units and apply somewhat of a killing blow here. Although Isabella, if she has a Blood Chalice off of cooldown, she could come in here and pop that on the Grace here and keep him nice and fresh. But this big Blade Singer and Ranger push in the back line, kind of a second wave here along with the Silver Helms, is cleaning up the Skaven weapons teams. Not that they had much ammunition left, but those few volleys of mortars especially would have been really, really nice to have in the late game. But the balance power is tipping pretty heavily as the rest of the Elven army kind of gets cleaned up a little bit here. The Vargulf is just about to go down, though. Oh, man, does manage to terrify away the Illyrian Reavers before being put into crumbling. Yeah, I guess just because Isabella and this one Vargulf are so healthy, that's what's weighing on the balance of power, right? Like, you've still got quite a bit of Skaven infantry kind of hanging around as well. Waystalkers out of ammunition, but they did manage to shatter some of these weapons teams. They're going to be able to probably shatter those Jezzails as well. Balance of power, though, very, very heavily in favor of the Unholy Horde. Yeah, well, glad to help then, Taminten. Glad that I wasn't, neglecting my duties in a harmful way, and definitely glad to provide some entertainment for you. Of course, the giant rat thing, I mean, it's kind of appropriate, actually, to see the Vargulf, like, fight alongside Skaven. You could almost, it is like a giant vampire rat thing, right? I don't know. You squint, you could almost make it look like a Skaven unit. But as it is right now, Isabella was able to heal up that Grace here with the Blood Chalice, get him nice and healthy again, and that's why Isabella is so good in team games. Someone recently mentioned in comments, I don't know, maybe it was Coops, in a conversation with Coops in one of my comments section, or maybe the Emperor, I was talking about how Isabella's so good in team games. She's definitely very, very strong. This is one big reason why. Just don't tell Vlad that she's, you know, out here cavorting with this Skaven fellow. I'm sure he wouldn't be too happy about that. Oh my. Woo. Ah, I can't believe we've been streaming an hour already. It's hard to believe. We can just go through so many games in this format. Anyway, looks like we got a victory there. Excellent stuff. Yeah. Big thanks to Voidlos for sending that one in. He managed to do quite well with his vampire counts. Vargolf's able to get a nice center push going there. Isabella getting some critical healing in as well. Blood Knights and the other units kind of going to almost a full surround. Not quite, but... let's see here. Yes. And a lot of damage on the Gracier of Ruin at the end of the day, too. Some really nice Dreaded 13th and Scorches and other things. Just huge AoE damage in general. The Giselles and the Mortars. I mean, the Mortars, yeah, they pay for themselves. And look at these Globadiers, though. 46 kills, 11,000 damage dealt, 1,500 damage value. That is just really, really strong cost effectiveness. Rat Ogres pay for themselves in a couple cases. Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers also come in and just clean up a whole bunch of infantry. Pretty solid stuff there for Loopy. I like the attempt of cleaning up weapons teams with the spells, right? But it just didn't quite work out like they needed it to. Despite the fact a lot of weapons teams didn't pay for themselves. Blade Singer's kind of a mixed bag here. Maybe just even going with more archers, honestly, would have been the way to go. Maybe like some Deepwood Scouts to try and kite things out a little bit. Yeah, and like again, the bolt throwers did okay. One of them pays for themselves, but I almost feel you need a little bit more mobile mobility. Or sorry, mobile mobility. Yeah, mobile shooting, like some 360 shooting, especially maybe some Reaver archers. I don't know, hard to say, but. At least those 360 shooters can fire while fleeing away from some of this stuff, and it's not like there was a ton of mobility. I mean, the Vampire Cavalry was definitely threatening, but one unit of Wolf Rats for Skaven's really not going to do much against, I don't know, like 3 Deepwood Scouts or something. Anyway, who am I to backseat general this? They had a pretty good battle, all things considered, but again, just the Lords going down, I think, was a little bit of an issue for the Elves, so... I know, right? Yes, the Gracier is one of the happiest lads in the entire game. So I'm actually going to go grab a drink of water real quick, keep myself nice and fresh, and we will resume very shortly. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Alright, I am returned. So, let's continue on. Let's get some Bretonnia. We haven't seen any Bretonnia yet today, so another one from Cool Umbrella. Very appropriate for this track to get some Bretonnia going. He's got King Lewin leading the way, Lore of Life, to heal specifically, I think, Pains of Quenelle. Also, some Yeoman. No Pegasus Knights this time, but the Yeoman Archers are pretty good here. They do outrange Marauder Horsemen, can kind of counter-skirmish them pretty effectively. Field Trebuchets, I also like to take out Halberds here. Some regular Yeomen to chase routing units and to deal with Hounds. A couple of Pole Arms. And the 3 Pole Arms plus Beast Slayers of Bastone is kind of an elite one, plus plenty of mobs as well. Alright, and raining in Hell Cannon Fire is a Hell Cannon. Sarthrel here, Chaos Feral Manticore, plenty of Marauders, Warriors with Crapens, Warriors with Halberds, 2 Chosen with Halberds too. So that is pretty good stuff. The Yeoman immediately going to move in and start to threaten. There's no Marauder Horsemen for them to have to deal with. Not really a lot of mobility at all for this Warriors of Chaos army, so they can kind of just have free reign here to run around and shoot whatever. Right now, dealing some pretty good damage to those Chaos Marauders. Not the most high value unit in the world, but still, any kind of skirmish is good on this initial phase. Yeah, I can see Lewin just kind of maneuvering over here. The rest of the army is going to be just chilling back for the time being, playing off the trebuchets as much as possible. I mean, it's a pretty good trade. If the Hell Cannon wants to shoot this cheap skirmish cavalry, its ammunition is, 34 ammo there versus 20 ammo on the trebuchets. So, trebuchets do have less ammo, but they're substantially cheaper, and they're shooting out of more expensive units. The trade should go in Bretonnia's favor from an artillery standpoint, not to mention they can kind of skirmish in here as well. A few shots on the Chosen, not going to do much, but ooh no, here comes the Manticore, able to actually catch the Mounted Yeoman ever so briefly. Get a couple of kills there, chew through a few models. Hell Cannon also landing some shots, but trebuchets making their presence felt. They've already got one warrior with great weapons just about down. If they can get into range to shoot the Chosen, that would be pretty good, but also shooting the Chosen, or the Warriors with Halberds is also, yeah, totally valid, 100%. Best moment, Zach Wade asks, best moments of Total War Warhammer or Total War in general for me in 2021. You know, that's hard to say. A few things. So, I am not one to gloat, typically. Like, really, truly. I'm not one to gloat, typically. But I have to say, I am very proud of myself for successfully guessing a good portion of the stuff that came in the Beastmen update. Like, giving Malagor flying is not something I thought they would do. I asked for it in my video anyway. But, yeah, Malagor, flying Malagor is probably a highlight of my year. Beastmen, even though it's a small thing, them getting the Feral Manticore and the Wargore hero, and like the Caster Lord, all those things, seemingly small things, added up to be awesome. And I would say in general that Beastmen update, even though it did break some stuff, one of the best updates they've ever done, and the campaigns were awesome. Like Oxyotl and Torok's campaigns are both really good, and Lord packs haven't always been that way in Total War Warhammer 2. Oftentimes one side's been substantially better, more fleshed out than the other. So for me, a lot of my top moments revolve around the Silence and Fury DLC. Getting to play Total War Warhammer 3, even if it was just very briefly for a demo mode, that was also a highlight in my year, 100%. Being able to get my hands on Kislev, fight through the Realm of Khorne in that survival battle, get a little bit of a tourist mode, if you will, but still it is, you know, Game 3. So those would probably be my highlights, both of which happened kind of right around the same time during the summer. Personally, I've had a lot of highlights in my personal life. Maybe I'll talk more about that another time. But, yeah, it's been a great year for me. Even though some things I wish would have gone better, like I wish we would have got Total War Warhammer 3 sooner, right? As the Halberds kind of fight here. Cool Umbrella doing a great job keeping these mounted yeomen alive. They're also doing a great job kind of distracting various targets wherever. Chosen with Halberds is going to be a pretty tough draw, but the Men-at-Arms with Polearm should do okay against a lot of the other targets. And we'll see. Yeoman coming in here on the side, trying to find some weaker targets to go after, maybe hang back, chase some routing units off. I'm trying to keep track of where the companions went. I don't actually know. Cannot see. Where are the companions of Quennell? They're here somewhere. We'll find them. Oh, there they are. Okay, so they've taken some damage already. They're definitely one of the more high-value units. They're going to have to do a lot to try and deal with everything here, but we'll see. Anyway, Big Bird moving in. He's got some damage on Lewin. Lewin, stand your ground active. Got Scroll of Shielding, Lion Shield. He's got Sword of Corone. So all of this stuff is getting debuffed. Yeoman. Here come the companions as well. They should provide some really good support here. Be able to clean up this unit of warriors with great weapons. But Hell Cannon also shooting in there. Some Chosen trying to reinforce. Yeah, Teach Me Total War Tournament. Yeah, that was a fun one, dog, for sure. I got to teach my brother how to play a little bit of multiplayer in that, which was an awesome experience for me personally. Yeah, that was definitely a fun one for sure. For sure. Had some awesome patron practice sessions, like definitely a year of Patreon growth for me, which is awesome. I got to meet a ton of you guys and talk to you over voice chat and have a lot of really awesome games. That's definitely been a highlight of my year. There's been a lot of positives, despite the fact that there was some negatives for sure, some balance issues, some issues with bugs. Some of those actually got fixed, right? Like the cavalry update came in and actually fixed largely cavalry units. There's still some issues there, but the game certainly works better than it did previously. And overall, I feel the game's in a pretty healthy end state for multiplayer. You know, there's still a lot of bugs in campaign, and it is unfortunate that Creative Assembly is not probably not going to push any more updates out for this game, but still, we definitely have Game 3 to look forward to. Lots of new and interesting bugs and issues to deal with, no doubt. But anyway. Yeah, it's been a lot of challenges this year, certainly, but also a lot of really, really good things. So anyway, got some trebuchet ammo left still on both of those. Yep, that's going to be important for trying to take out some of these Chosen with halberds in the late game. Somehow, too, the Men-at-Arms with polearms are still coming forward, even just tying down the Chosen briefly, allowing them to get hit by the catapults is pretty good. Caster also getting chased off there. The Damsel of Life is not great, but the Feral Manticore does also significantly overextend. Unfortunately, that does mean the Companions of Quennell won't be able to heal anymore, which they would have been pretty important in this late game. But let's fast forward as Trebuchet rains some fire and death down on the halberds. Still got one pretty healthy unit of warriors with halberds. Both the Chosen have taken some damage, but Companions are still also just hanging around in the periphery as well. Lewin was able to deal with that man's core while we weren't looking, which is just fantastic. And the Chosen, no surprises there. They beat the Beastslayers of Bastogne, but not before taking some more trebuchet damage. Let's see, got 5 volleys left here, 5 volleys left here. So can the trebuchets make good enough contact to pay for themselves in this late game? Also, if Lewin can come in and snipe Big Bird, that would be huge. Companions of Quennell, quick charge in and out. Standard die gets popped for the warriors, increasing their melee defense, and Big Bird comes over to push them away himself. They are immune to psychology, right? Yes, Companions of Quennell are immune to psychology, but here comes Big Bird. He pops that Lion Shield, Sword of Corone, all that stuff. Again, actually no, Lion Shield just dropped, it looks like, but Big Bird does take a few huge swings there. He's down to only 16 melee defense, so no surprises that he would be taking big old chunks of damage. Likewise, 11 melee defense for those Chaos Warriors with great weapons. They're going to immediately get terrified away there. And the halberds, or sorry, the trebuchets still throwing. Getting some solid contact on those warriors with halberds there. And of course, they're not immune to psychology, so Lewin could potentially get some terror routes here if he's able to get some good leadership damage in. But for the time being, it looks like he's just going to pull up and try and cycle charge a bit. Just let the trebuchets use up. Oh no, but he does get one unit of warriors with halberds terrified here. I'm not really sure how, but anyway, Lewin's going to swing up with the halberds being slightly away. Again, any free hits he can get on Big Bird at this point is going to be super important. If he can finish Big Bird off, that will be massive leadership damage. Beautiful charge from the Companions of Quenelle as well. Managed to shatter, or at least terrify, one unit of Chosen there. Yeah, the trebuchets attacked by artillery debuff, like what we saw before. Super important for combining with the Fear and Terror and the leadership damage of that shock. So here comes the other Chosen with halberds. Let's see what they're able to do. Lewin going for the killing blow, perhaps. Less than 1,000 HP on Sarthrel. Plague of Rust on Lewin. Probably should have been using that Plague of Rust the entire time to try and help Big Bird to duel Lewin. That way he could have fought him a little bit easier, but at this point Lewin is going to get the killing blow on poor Big Bird. No, perhaps not. If he just whiffs on all his attack rolls, man, that's very unlucky. He's going to have to pull back up and around and get one more charge to finish the job. Unless Sarthrel just YOLOs into the Beast Slayers, that might do it also. Yeah. Will be enough to terrify them away. And the Companions of Quenelle is getting bogged down in Chaos Marauders. That's definitely not who they want to be fighting. Or to apply their tiny little bit of armor piercing left. Try and take out maybe more high value target. But oh, here it comes. Hit. Still, there it is. Finally, Lewin's able to finish off Big Bird after whiffing on a bunch of his attacks. And now that puts Bretonnia ahead on the balance of power. Now Lewin can come in with, whoops, these other units acting as an anvil. Come in and just start to terrify away these units individually. Yes. Yes, the crew. The trebuchet crew. This was a fun game to spectate. Yeah, it definitely was. Glad to see you were in on it, Coops. This is, yeah. You can see the halberds all trying to form up. They sense the danger of the trebuchet crews. So Lewin coming in, finishes one off. Oh, yes, yeah, so we're going to have an artillery crew fight. Please. Please, companions, just leave them alone. No, they're not going to. They're not. Oh, there we go. Push him into the middle of all the Bretonnian artillery crew, because they have little hammers and, like, you know, tools. Not really rocking weapons by any means, but yes, yes, peasant crewmen against Chaos Dawis. I don't know why that makes me happy. It's very dumb. Yeah, the Chosen should be no problem, though, honestly. With good charges from Lewin, as long as he has a hammer or an anvil to hammer into, which these trebuchet crew absolutely will be, shouldn't be much of a problem. Like, here he comes. You can see how he's kind of aligned here to try and get a side or rear charge. That's going to be super important. There's the Sword of Corone, and there's the drop. Should be a pretty quick tear route if he's able to do enough damage. There's still 32 melee defense on the Chosen with halberds, even after the Sword of Corone, and 90 armor. Man, just such an angry, angry unit. Let's see. Companion's going to get a little charge in here. Lewin pulling up and around. Going to rear charge into this little blob. Ooh, just got a little bit of an awkward pathing there, but also, like, he's not in contact with too many of the Chosen. And there it is. Tear route, both of them. That's a victory. So, yeah, big handicap for Chosen. It's true. Ringing Archeon with his Crown of Domination can sometimes help. But, yeah, very, very good stuff. Good job to both players, honestly. Rocket Roo here coming in. It's sort of a to be expected, but I think this build does lack mobility. You're kind of over-investing in heavy infantry here, in my opinion. Could just straight up cut one warrior with halberds to take a couple of doggos. Maybe, I don't know, cut one of the Chosen, too, perhaps, to break some Marauder Horsemen as well. Particularly the throwing axes, missile block chance, armor piercing, very good here. You just need some tactical flexibility to chase routing units off because, yeah, trebuchets being able to free fire the whole time was a big, big problem. They did tons of damage, and considering how cheap they are, even with the chevrons, that is just excellent value on trebuchets. King Lewin himself also coming in, 3,000 damage value. The Poison Hounds, Horsemen can keep him locked on the ground so that, you can get more favorable fights, like the Plague of Rust, obviously, with Big Bird also. If you have, like, Hound or Horseman support, Big Bird can actually fight Lewin and do a reasonably decent job at keeping him in check. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Tam and Ten. It is a little bit odd that, thinking from a lore perspective, that Chosen will flee to, like a Manticore or a Bastildon when they should be used to facing off against literal demons, right? But anyway, yeah, Companions didn't do too much, but likewise, my brain is turning into jelly. Horseman Archers did okay as well. Didn't do a ton, but not bad. Halberds, 489. What have them paid for themselves? Infantry here, man, 200 kills on these great weapons. I mean, to be expected. A lot of high kill totals versus Bretonnian infantry. Hell Cannon also managed to generate great value, but it just wasn't enough against specific high value targets. Lewin being able to cycle charge freely here was too much of a problem, and that's ultimately what doomed Lewin and the Trebuchets, I would say, is definitely what carried against this army. But anyway, yes, Nurgle Chosen are jealous of how stinky the peasants are. It is true. I think that's actually it for today. You know what? I've got time. No, I better run. Unfortunately, I do have some more stuff to get to this evening, so I've got to run. But I'll put out an announcement tomorrow for the King of the Hill. We should be streaming for a little bit longer tomorrow. I'll probably go for a good, like, 3 or 4 hours tomorrow, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Again, keep an eye on the Discord. If you're not in the Discord for whatever reason, go ahead and follow this link here that I'm posting in chat. Thank y'all so much for coming out. Y'all are the best. Yeah, it's been a wonderful year. I had so many highlights of this year, like I already mentioned. And the biggest one of all is you guys, like patrons, members, viewers, community members, everyone. You guys have made this year what it is. I literally would have quit, I think, YouTube at a certain point this year if it wasn't for you guys being so awesome. So I just want to thank you all again so much for a wonderful year. 2021, face some challenges, learn some things. 2022, now we're in a position for it to be the best year yet of Total War Warhammer multiplayer by far. So lots to look forward to. Stay tuned to this channel for all that and more. Thank you.